This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So yesterday, as part of the procedures, we have seen how to create table types using UI and how to create the table types using what a SQL statement and how to deal with table types as parameters in what procedures. Okay. So in continuation to this, so as part of this ABAP HANA database, just like in our ABAP programming language, we have different conditional statements, looping statements. So if you take conditional statements, yeah, if you take conditional statements, we have what if and if. Okay, then we have case statement. Then if you take looping statements, okay, we have different looping statements. Like we have while, end while. Then we have what for and end for. Then we have what loop and what end loop. Okay. So like this, we have conditional and what looping statement. So they are very simple to use. So just quickly, let us try to see some simple examples on this because we'll be using this in other examples also. So let me quickly create a procedure. I'll open the SQL console, set the schema for your session. Schema is set, done. Now, yeah, I'll quickly create the procedure here. Create procedure. So I want to use the if and if inside this procedure. So in regard to that, a very simple example. So I'll take some parameter here. I'll give some parameter names, input parameter, v underscore option varchar of 10. Okay, then I'll take another input parameter, something v underscore x integer. Then another integer parameter v underscore y integer. Then I'll take one output parameter v underscore res integer. Okay, as begin. So based on this option, I need to do some appropriate operations. I'll say if v underscore option is equal to something addition, then okay, v underscore res is equal to what v underscore x plus v underscore y. Then how to use else if here? Else if v underscore option is equal to, I'll just give something sub, then v underscore res is equal to v underscore x minus v underscore y. Then else if v underscore option is equal to what product. Then I'll say v underscore res is equal to something v underscore x into v underscore y. If none of the conditions are satisfied, control goes to what else part. Else I'll say something v underscore res is equal to v underscore x by v underscore y. So I'm doing some calculations and I'm storing that calculated result inside what output parameter. So end for if is end if, end for procedure body is what end. So very simple example just to understand the syntax of what this if and if. So when I execute, procedure got created. Okay. So let me try to call the procedure. I'll say call. What is the procedure name? If underscore test. Okay. What is the signature of the procedure? It contains some three input parameters and one output parameter. So if call if underscore text, I'll say v underscore option. Okay. Implies a product. I'll directly give the value here. Implies product. Then for v underscore x, let me try to pass the value. I'll pass something 34 and then v underscore y. implies what 12. Then I need to bound the output parameter. What is the output parameter name? V underscore res. V underscore res implies I have to give what placeholder. So just we are trying to understand the syntax of what if and if. Nothing much to discuss here. I got the result something what 408. So like this, I can call it with what different options. So here instead of giving product, I'll give something addition. So when I execute, I got 46. Okay, 34 plus 12. Then here I'll pass something div. So we don't have div here. So control goes to what else part. So when I execute, I got the result as what a 2. If you want in decimals, you declare this v underscore res as what decimal. So it's very simple example for what if and if. Similarly, what is the other conditional statement we have? We have case statement. Okay, so let me try to use the case statement here. One second. Do we have any table related to tax here? One second. We don't have. Okay. So I'll do one thing. So let me show you an example on what select statement containing using what this case statement. Okay. So what I'll do is let me create one table quickly. Create column table. I'll give the table name as something emp underscore department. Okay, so as part of this table, I'll create some columns emp id int primary key. Then I'll create another column employee name something varchar of 20. Then I'll take another column like department number. I'll take it as integer. Then I'll take salary. Let me take it as decimal of something 12 comma 2. Then close the table. So when I execute this, yeah, the table got created. The table got created. Let me quickly maintain some data in this. Insert into emp underscore department values. I'll give some data here. One Raju. What else? Department number and what salary. I'll just change the employee numbers because it is primary key. Let me provide different names. Okay, I'll provide the department numbers 10, 20, 30. This I'll give 10, 10, 20, 30. And this again I'll give 20. And I'll maintain some salary here. Some data I'll maintain. Okay, done. So assume that this is the data I'm trying to insert. Yeah, all the 8 records are inserted. So if you refresh, the table got created, emp underscore department, and this table has got what? Some data. Yeah, my requirement is, okay. So my requirement is, I want to create a procedure now. What that procedure has to do is, uh, yeah, the procedure has to what calculate the tax. Okay, it has to calculate the tax based on what department number. Okay, so if the department number is a 10, tax should be something 20%. If the department number is 20, tax should be something what 30%. If the department number is 30, tax should be some 40%. If it is other than this 10, 20, 30, the tax should be some 50%. So my overall requirement is my table contains how many columns here? 4 columns. But what I want is I want to create the procedure to calculate the tax based on what department number and return the same including what tax means when I return I should return how many columns? 5 columns. Okay, my original table contains only what 4 columns, but my procedure has to return the result set which should contain what 5 columns. What is that fifth column? That is tax component. Okay, and the tax should be calculated based on what department number. Okay, it has to calculate based on the department number. Okay, so see how to achieve this. So since I need to return the result set which contains what 5 columns, I'll create what one table type because I cannot return the parameter referring to this table because this table has got only what 4 columns, but I need to return the result set containing 5 columns. So I'll create one table type, create type tt underscore emp underscore department as table. Okay, already we know how to create the table type. We discussed that yesterday. Okay, done. I'm trying to create the table type. I'll just copy this as it is, right? So emp id integer varchar of 20, so and so done. Now apart from this, I want one more component. What tax value? Tax value. I'll take what something decimal of something 9 comma 2. So my table type is having what one additional column called as what tax value. Right? The table type got created. So my procedure should contain one output parameter which has to refer to this particular table type. So I'll create the procedure now. Create procedure. Earlier I gave the procedure name as something if underscore test. Let me give this procedure name as something case underscore test. Done. So here I'll take one output parameter. So based on department numbers, I need to return the tax component. So I'll take one output parameter out I tab. I need to refer to what my table type. What is the table type here? TT underscore EMP underscore department. Done. Then as begin. So here I tab is equal to I'll say select what are the columns you want. EMP ID I want ename. Okay, and what is the other column in the table? Department number, department number, and what else? Salary, salary. Okay, from from what is the original table name? EMP underscore department. From EMP underscore department done, and also what end. So try to understand my output parameter. What is the output parameter name here? I tab. which is of what type? Table type. My table type is having how many columns? 5 columns. But when you are returning here, I am returning only what? 4 columns. From which table? EMP underscore department. So when I try to create this procedure, let's say F8, obviously I got an error. Expected result. Where is the error here? Return type mismatch. Yeah, return type mismatch. Why it is saying return type mismatch here? Because your I type is expecting how many columns? 5 columns. But your select query is retrieving only what? 4 columns. So what I'll do is here only. Yeah, just try to understand. 4 columns are available in the table. Fifth column. What is the fifth column in the table type? Tax value. So I need to construct this particular tax value now. So what I'll do is as part of my select query only, as part of my select query, I will use what? Case statement. Okay, case. My tax should be calculated based on department number now. So case department number. Okay, when 10, then I'll say then what? Salary into some percentage. I'll take it as something 20 percentage. When 20, then I'll say salary into, sorry, then salary into, I'll take some percentage like 0.30. When 30, when 30, then I'll take something what? Salary into what? Salary into what? 0.40. Okay, so in our ABAP we have when others, right? So here we have what? Else. Else means what? If none of the when statement is satisfied, control goes to else part. Else is salary into what? 0.50. Yeah, end as I need to return that as what? Tax value. Now what is the column name in the table type? Tax value. So end as what? Tax value. And as tax value from which table? From what is the base table name? EMP underscore department. That's it. That's all. So what I am doing is I am trying to use case statement as part of my select query only. Okay, so I repeat, my output parameter is referring to table type, which has got what? 5 columns. So 4 columns are database columns in the sense they are available in my base table. Fifth column I need to construct manually based on the department number. So based on the department number value, based on the department values, I'm constructing different tax values, and I'm returning that calculation. I'm returning that calculation as what? End as what? Tax value. The column name should be what? Same. Okay, so this is how we use case statement as part of your select query. Okay, let me try to execute this. When I say F8, yeah, the procedure got what? Created. Procedure got created. Let me try to call the procedure. Call, what is the procedure name? Case underscore test. It has got one output parameter, so I'll provide the placeholder. So it will successfully execute the procedure, and it has to return the data which should contain what? Tax component. So when I execute, yeah, you can see it is returning me 5 columns, and it is also returning me the tax component based on the department number. Yeah, working fine. So here the focus here is how to use the case statement inside what? As part of your select and what? Select statement as part of your select query. Right? Hope it's clear. The syntax. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay. So with the very simple thing. So this is condition. Then coming to looping statements, we have what? While, end while, for, end for, and what? A loop end loop, loop end loop. Okay, so let me show you the syntax for while and while. Yeah, create procedure. I'll take a very simple example. I'll give the procedure name as something while underscore test as begin, as begin. I'll declare one variable here. Declare something v underscore counter. Sorry, v underscore what counter. I'll take it as integer and I'll initialize it to what some value. Okay. So data x type I value 10, value 4. Okay. Similar to that. So I'm declaring the variable as well as initializing. Let me declare another variable. Data declare v underscore x. I'll take it as integer. Done. And here I'll initialize it separately. V underscore x equal to 1. I can do like this or I can declare and initialize separately like this. Anything is fine. Done. Now here I'll say while what? V underscore x is less than what? V underscore counter. What is the value of V underscore counter? 4. Then do. Okay, this is the way to use while and while. Do. Do what? I'll just display the value of V underscore x. Select V underscore x dummy, from dummy. Then every time I'll increment the x value with 1. V underscore x equal to V underscore x plus 1. End for while is what? End while. End for procedure is what? End. That's all. A very simple statement. So initial value of x is 1. I'm using the while end while here. Every time I'm incrementing x value and I'm displaying the x value inside that while and what? End while. So when I execute, when I say fetch, the procedure got what? Created. Let me try to call the procedure. Call what is the procedure name? While underscore test. So it doesn't have any parameters. So when I execute, what is the value I got? 3. Yeah? Hmm. Sorry. Yeah, I got it now. 1 I got, 2 I got, 3 I got. Am I clear? 1, 2, 3. Okay, separately it will provide the tabs. Separately will provide the tabs. I cannot put it in what one tab. Okay, so first time when I'm executing the select query, this select query, what? It will generate some tab here. I got the value of x as what? 1. Then I got 2. Then I got something what? 3. Okay. So just we are trying to understand the syntax of what? While and what? End while. Similarly, I can use what? For and for. Same thing. I'll just use in a different way. Create procedure. I'll give the name of the procedure as something for underscore text. Declare same. Okay, let me give this value as something 1. Done. And then I don't require x. Yeah, I'll not take x here. V underscore counter. Then here I'll say for for what? V underscore counter in 1 to 5. V underscore counter 1 to 5. I have not declared x, so I'll directly select V underscore counter from dummy. Done. End for this is what? End for. One second, just a minute. Yeah, where we are? We are trying to use a for loop. So let me cross check. I declare a variable initialized to 1, 1 into 1 to 5 do so on. So, okay, so when I execute this, procedure got created. Let me try to call this, call for underscore what test, execute. Then I got the values. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. I got the result. Okay. So if you observe the difference here, here I need not increment this iteration variable. Okay, it will take it as a range. 1 to 5 means starting value is what here 1. So it will automatically increment every time by what? 1 year. Okay, so this is a way to use what? For and what? And for. Syntax we are trying to understand. Okay, so the advantage of this for loop is you need not increment or decrement the variable. So if I say for counter in 5 to 1, it will automatically decrement by what? 1. Since I'm saying 1 to 5, so it will increment by 1. Hope it's clear. Similarly, we can use what? A loop and what? And a loop. Let me do the same kind of thing. Create procedure. I'll give the name as something loop underscore test as begin. I'll declare the variable. So let me declare another variable here. Declare v underscore x integer equal to 4. I want to use what here? Loop. Na? So I'll say loop. End for loop is what? End loop. Then loop and end loop. Then here I'll say select so and so. Done. So here I'll say if v underscore counter is greater than what? V underscore x, then I will use a statement called as break, and if and here I'll increment the counter value with 1. V underscore counter is equal to V underscore counter plus 1. That's all. Yeah, that's all. So loop and what? And loop. You can visualize this loop and loop similar to do and do. Do and do means without checking any condition, it will enter the loop, and somewhere in the loop you should have some exit condition. So what is the exit condition in this case? If the counter value is greater than x value, then I am saying what? Break. Break will come out of the current loop. So when I execute this, procedure is created. Let me try to call the procedure. Call loop underscore what? Test. F8. Yeah, I got the result. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Okay, so whenever the counter value is what? Greater than x, I am exiting. Okay, so when 5 is greater than x, 5 is greater than 4, yes, we are saying what? Break. Okay, so this is similar to what? Do and what? And do. So what is the difference between while and loop? In case of while loop, first we'll check the condition. First we'll check the condition. If the condition is satisfied, then it will enter the loop. But whereas in case of loop and loop, without checking any condition, it will enter the loop. So when do we go for loop and loop is if you want to execute certain statements at least once. If you want to execute certain statements at least once, we'll go for what? Loop and what? And loop. And when do we go for and for, or what is the advantage of for and for? You need not increment or decrement the iteration variable. It will be automatically incremented or decremented. That is the advantage of what? For and what? And for. Okay, so understood. So this is a simple syntax related to this conditional statements and what looping statements. Now let us discuss more on what a read-only procedure and also exception handling. One second, let me consider one table. Do we have data in this? Okay. This table has got two columns, EMP ID, ename. Do we have data in this? Yeah, data is also there. Yeah, and EMP ID is a primary key. Done. So what I'll do is, yeah, my requirement is I want to create a procedure which has to insert the record into this particular table, but I want to create that procedure as what? A read-only procedure. So let us understand that. So create procedure. Try to understand. Create procedure. I'll give the procedure name as something. Insert employee. What is the requirement here? I want to insert the record into this particular table. This table has got two columns. So how do we insert the record into the table? Insert into table name, values, that field 1 comma field 2. So what I'll do is, since I have to pass both employee number and what employee name, I'll take two input parameters. I'll give the input parameter name as something IP underscore EMP ID integer. I'll take one more input parameter IP underscore ename. I'll give it as something varchar of what 30, varchar of 30. Then I'll take one output parameter out. Why I'm taking the output parameters? I want to return that message, that is record inserted successfully. So out, I'll give it as OP underscore message. OP indicates what here? Output. IP indicates what here? Input. That is understanding. Then I'll give a varchar. Let me give it as something 200. Done. Now the change I'll do is, okay, this is my input parameter. Here I'll say, yes, I think I discussed this, reads SQL data. So while creating the procedure, I'm using an addition. I'm using an addition called as what reads SQL data. So what is the meaning of this? We are trying to create what? A read-only procedure. So if you try to create read-only procedure, as part of that procedure, I cannot use what? Data manipulation language statements like insert, update, and what? Delete. But here my agenda is what? Insert. Let us see what happens. Insert into what is the table name where I want to insert emp underscore trigger. Insert into emp underscore trigger values. What are the parameters? One is ip underscore emp id, comma. What is the other parameter? Ip underscore ename. Done. If the insert is successfully executed, what is the output parameter here? op underscore msg equal to op underscore image equal. I'll just give a message what? Record inserted successfully. Record insert successfully. End for procedure what? End. Yeah. So I'll try to execute this. Let me cross it. Create procedure insert employee. I've taken two input parameters, one output parameter, and while creating the procedure, I have used the addition called as what reads SQL data. So we are instructing that this is a read-only procedure, means it should contain only select query. It should not contain the data manipulation language statements, but we are trying to use insert statement. So let's see what happens when I try to execute this, when I say F8, good. Hmm. See the error message. What is the error message I got here? Create procedure so and so, so and so. Feature not supported. Insert, update, delete are not supported in read-only procedure. Okay, so I want to show this error message. So what is the meaning here? In the read-only procedure, we cannot use what? Data manipulation statements. Insert, update, delete I cannot use. Okay, so I want to do the insertion. So what is the adjustment I have to do now? If I execute like this, it is giving me error. So what I'll do is, the only change I'll do is I need to remove this. So how do you remove this? Just comment it. How to comment here? Just say hyphen hyphen. If you want to comment any line in the SQL console, just say hyphen hyphen. So that line is what? Commented. So we are not marking it as what? Read-only procedure. We are not marking it as read-only procedure. So now the procedure should be what? Created. Okay, I'll give the procedure name as what? Insert employee. Done. So let me try to execute this. F8. Yeah, the procedure is what? Created. Procedure is created. Let me try to insert the data. So when I refresh here, what are the records available? 1, 2, 3, 4 is already available. So I'll try to insert 5 and 6. Call, what is the procedure name? Insert employee. Insert employee. I'll try to give the employee number. I'll give something 5 and what? Vamshi. Then it contains an output parameter. So I'll take this placeholder. Done. When I execute, call done. When I say F8, yeah, what happened? Record inserted successfully. So what I'm trying to show here is this insert statement is successfully executed. Then the control is going to the next statement. Whatever the assignment I'm doing, this message is assigned to my output parameter. That's what the result I got. Record inserted successfully. Okay. I'll try to insert one more record. I'll give the employee number as something 6. I'll give this employee name as something Vamshi 1. I'll execute this. Here also I got the message record inserted successfully. If you check the table, then I got 5 and 6. Let me try to insert once again. Yeah, insert employee 5 comma. I'll give a different name Vamshi 2. But in the table, what is the primary key here? Employee ID is the primary key, which will not accept what? Duplicate values. Already we have the 5 in the table. We have the 5 with employee name as what? Something Vamshi. Now I'm trying to insert duplicate employee ID. So see what happens. When I execute this, when I say F8, good. See what is happening. I got a error, unique constraint violated. Unique constraint violated exception, unique constraint violated, so and so. Yeah. Okay, line 5. So in the fifth line, so when it is trying to execute the insert statement, unique constraint is getting what? Violated. So what you have to understand here is this statement execution itself, this statement execution itself is raising the exception, unique constraint violated. So what is happening? It is not going to the next statement now. Okay, so what I'm trying to show here is assume that your processor is having some 100 lines of code, 100 lines of code. In the 50th line, some exception is raised. So whenever an exception is raised in any line, what happens? The rest of the statements will not be executed. So in this context also, this statement execution itself is raising the exception. Whenever the exception is raised, what happens? The procedure execution gets what? Terminated. Not only here, you take any programming language, if any exception is raised in any of the statement, the rest of the statements will not be executed. The program execution will be terminated. Here also, the procedure execution is getting terminated because an exception is raised in this particular statement. What is that exception? Unique constraint violation exception. Okay. So my agenda is what now? My agenda is okay. I'm getting this error now. Unique constraint. But this is what message? This message is given by what? The system itself. So this is system defined exception message. What is my requirement? I don't want the system defined exception. I don't want the system defined exception. I want to handle that particular exception. Okay. So let's see how to do it. 1 second, please. Done. Okay. So I want to handle the exception. So let's see how to do it. Any questions so far? So the understanding is inside the procedure, or anywhere, any block of statements, if any statement execution is raising an exception, what happens? The rest of the statements will not be executed. Instead, the execution will be what? Terminated. So here also, this insert statement execution is raising the exception. So exception message is flashed by what? The system itself. So my agenda is what? I want to handle the exception for which one? Unique constraint violation. So see the change here. I'll try to create a new procedure. Create procedure. Insert underscore employee. Insert underscore employee. Then rest of thing is same. Yeah. Here what I'll do is before I execute the insert statement, let me define the block. Let me define the block for your unique constraint violation. So I'll say declare. Try to understand. I'm trying to handle the exception. So if you take our ABAP context, what is there are many ways of handling the exception. One of the ways what we use some try and catch block. Wherever you feel exception might raise, that statement or statements will enclose inside what? Try block. Immediately after the try block, we'll handle the exception by using what? Catch block. We'll handle the exception by using catch block. So whenever an exception is raised in the try block, control jumps to what? Appropriate catch block. So here what I am trying to do, I am trying to define the exception handling block for what? This unique constraints. I'll say declare, sorry, declare exit handler, declare exit handler for SQL exception. Okay, declare exit handler for SQL exception, and then I'll say begin. What I'll do here, I'll give a message op underscore msg. What is this op underscore msg? This is your output parameter. So op underscore msg is equal to, I will give a meaningful message. What is that? Record already exists. Record already exists. Done. And also what? End. That's all. Then after this, I'll execute my insert statement and so on. So done. So what is the change I have done? At the beginning of the procedure itself, I have handled my exception. You can assume this is similar to catch block. Catch block. Okay, so when the catch block gets executed, whenever an exception is raised in the try block, the appropriate catch block will be executed. Why I'm saying appropriate catch block? A try block can contain any number of what? Catch blocks. A try block can contain any number of catch blocks. Here also, I can have any number of what? Exception handling block. As of now, we have defined the block only for one exception. What is that standard exception? SQL exception. This is a standard exception. We are handling that exception. Okay. So let me try to execute now. Right. So I'll say fit. The procedure got what? Created. I'll try to insert. Call, what is the procedure name? Insert underscore employee. Insert underscore employee. I'll give some employee number 8. I'll give employee name something Vamshi 8, and I'll give the placeholder what? This one. Done. So employee number 8 is not available. So if it is not available, the record will be created. Means insert statement will be successfully executed. Since the statement is successfully executed, control goes to next statement, and it will return me the message what? Record inserted successfully. So when I say F8, yes, I got the message record inserted successfully. Now I'll try to insert 8 once again. Okay, I'm trying to insert 8 once again with a different name, Vamshi 4. So earlier what happened, when you're trying to insert duplicate employee number, I got the standard exception message. I got the standard exception message. What is that exception message? Unique constraint violated exception. But in this case, let's see what happens. Okay, I'll try to execute this. So here in this execution, what happened? This block is not executed. this block is not executed. That's why I didn't got the message record already exists. Now I'll try to insert this F8. Done. What happened here? See, I didn't got any exception. I didn't got any standard exception message. What is the message I got? Record already exists. Means what is the agenda here? Instead of abnormal termination of the exception, what is happening is now the control is shifting to our exception block and we are returning that message what record already exists. So this is much better for the user perspective now. Okay, if this message is flashed to the user, you would not understand, right? You would not understand. So always you have to keep end user in mind. That's why as part of that exception handling block, what I did, I am associating my own exception message. That's why I got the message record already exists. Any questions, please ask. Is it clear to everyone? The agenda of handling the exception, instead of abnormal termination of the exception, instead of flashing the standard exception message, okay, I am flashing the user defined exception message. How we are able to do? We have defined the exception block for that standard exception. Understood? So what is the standard exception name here? SQL exception. SQL exception. If any SQL statements execution fails, this exception will be raised. If any if any SQL statement execution fails, this exception will be raised. Any questions? Okay, so in this case, what is happening is we are flashing what? We are flashing user defined exception message. Now what I can do is I want to handle that unique constraint violation. I want to capture the standard error code and the standard exception message. Okay, again, if you go back to object-oriented ABAP, we have the mechanism to capture standard exception message. Okay, so how do we do that there? If you remember that, in case of our ABAP, we use try block and we'll say what catch. Okay, catch. You will give the exception name cx underscore xy underscore 0 divide into OB. This OB is the object of the exception class. Inside what? Catch block. Inside the catch block, every exception class contains some methods, get text and get long text. So using this object, you'll call get text, you'll call get long text, you'll call something get source position. There's some methods are there, get text, get long text, get source position, something like that. So that is a way to capture what standard exception message in case of our normal ABAP. Here also I want to handle this exception, but I want to capture what? Standard exception code, standard error code, and standard exception message. So see the change here. I'll keep this as it is. So I need to provide a new what new procedure name. I'll give the procedure name as insert underscore emp. The signature will remain same. Yeah, declare so and so. So earlier what I did in my output parameter, I'm assigning what? User defined message. Let me comment this. I'm commenting this. What is the agenda now? Agenda is what? I need to capture standard exception code and the standard exception message. So how do you do it? It's very simple. This is an output parameter. Inside this only I want to capture. So equal to, just try to understand. What is the exception? SQL exception raised, and here I'll say error code is I need to use this symbol, pipe symbol. I need to use this pipe symbol. We have one standard attribute called as SQL underscore error underscore code. Just like I believe in cursors also, I told that I discussed some cursor related properties. Not found. Not found means if the fetch statement is failed, if there is no further record to read, that property will be set not found. Similarly, related to exception also, we have this particular attribute called as what? SQL error code. Done. And then again I'll concatenate. I want the message also. So here I'll say error message is, again I'll use a pipe symbol, pipe symbol. What is the attribute now? SQL underscore, sorry, SQL underscore error underscore message. These are standard properties, attributes related to what? Exceptions. Message. That's all. Huh? Yeah, that's it.
Pipe symbol, Mr.
No, I gave it, na, Shiva.
End
No, that's
message.
I'm ending the statement, so that's why I just semicolon. This is the end
Okay.
of the statement, so I give semicolon.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens here is when you're trying to insert the duplicate value, what happens? Unique constraint will be violated. What is the corresponding exception for that? SQL exception. Control comes here, and as part of this message, we are referring to the standard attribute SQL error code and SQL error message. This will return the exception code. This will return the exception message. So let me check it now. I'll try to create the procedure. F8. Yeah, procedure is what? Created. Okay. Let me try to insert the record. Call. What is the procedure name? Insert underscore emp. Insert underscore emp. I'll give employee number 9 and I'll give Vamshi 9. So I think this will be inserted. Record will be inserted when I say F8. Oh, what happened? Sorry, wrong number of parameters because we have output parameter. We have to bind it, right? So I'll give a placeholder. So when I execute, yeah, record inserted successfully. So insert is successfully executed. Now I'll say same employee number. I'll try to give 4 here, Vamshi 4. We're trying to insert duplicate employee number. So that SQL exception will be raised. Control goes to that block where we are capturing the standard error code and standard exception message. So when I execute, done, good. SQL exception raised. Error code is what? 301 and error message is what? Unique constraint violated. Good. So here I got the entire message. Hope it's clear to everyone. 301. If you remember, I don't know, 4 5 days back, I think, or in cursors, I think I discussed the user defined exception codes will range from 10,000 to 19,999. Standard exception code will range from 1 to 9,999. So related to the SQL exception, what is the exception error code here? 301. And this is the standard exception message. So it is developer choice whether you want to capture standard exception message or user defined exception message. Any questions? So in this example, I'm handling what? Standard exception. I'm handling what? Standard exception. We can handle standard exceptions as well as what? User defined exception. Do we have time? Yeah, let me try to finish up that. So what is my requirement is same kind of example. My requirement is I want to handle this exception, SQL exception, and apart from that, if I try to insert, null value for employee name, if I try to insert null value for employee name, it has to raise what? User defined exception. Okay. In this case, if you're trying to insert a duplicate value for employee number, it is raising what? Standard exception, SQL exception, which you are handling. Now my next requirement is what? In the same thing, if I try to insert null value for employee name, okay, it should not allow me to insert. Suppose in this case, if you see, can I insert null value? I'll say call insert underscore emp9, not 9. I'll give what? Something 10. Okay, so when I execute, what happened? Record inserted successfully. So if you refresh, I got 10 and blank value for what? Employee name. I'm able to insert what? Null value. Now I want to stop this. So what I'll do, same example, see the change. Yeah. So see the change here, everything is same, but I want to handle what? User defined exception also. So see the technique here. After beginning my procedure here, I'll give the procedure name as insert EMP. New procedure insert EMP as begin. So if it is a standard exception, just our job is only to handle the exception. We are handling the exception. Now, if it is user defined exception, what you have to do is first of you have to declare the exception. How do you declare? Declare. I'll give my exception name. I'll give it as my exception, any name. Okay, condition for, already we discussed this syntax also. SQL underscore, for SQL underscore error underscore code. Okay, I'll give 10,002 because already we know user defined exception codes ranges from 10,000 to what? 19,999. So I'm giving this done. So this is a block. This is a block for standard exception. Now I want to handle the user defined exception. So what I'll do is declare exit handler for, what is my exception name? My exception. Declare exit handler for my exception. Okay. Yeah. SQL error. Here I'll give the message user defined exception raised, error code is so and so, SQL error message so and so. Done. That's all. Done. Yeah, insert into so and so. Yeah, before I execute the insert statement, I have to check the condition. What is that? If, what is the second parameter name here? IP underscore ename equal to what? Equal to blank. Then I'll say I have to raise the exception. I believe already covered this. How do you raise a exception signal? Signal, what is the exception? My exception, and I'll associate the exception message. Set message underscore text. Set message underscore text equal to, I'll give a message what? Employee name cannot be what? Null. Employee name cannot be blank. Anything. Employee name cannot be blank. That's all. Here also what? End. And after that, I'm using the insert statement. Done. So what I'm trying to do here is, we are handling the standard exception. We are handling the standard exception. We are also handling the user defined exception. What is the difference? In case of standard exception, our job is only to handle. Our job is only to handle. In case of user defined exception, we need to declare the exception associating with the error code. We need to handle the exception. We need to raise the exception by using what keyword? Signal keyword. Hope it's clear. In case of standard exception, our job is only to handle. How to handle? By defining the exception handling block. In case of user defined exception, we need to declare associating with the exception code, which should range from 10,000 to 19,999. Handle that exception, and raise that exception at the appropriate place. So I'm raising the exception by associating exception message whenever the employee name is what blank. Let me try to execute this. I'll say fetch. Oh, I got error boss. Where is error? In the line 20. In the line 20, I got the error. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. What is the error anywhere? Do you see any error anywhere? Line 20 it seems. Do you see any error anywhere? Ah, yes, error is here only. End if, na? Not end, right? Okay, end for if is what? End if. So let me try to execute this again. F8. Yes, the procedure is what? Created. Let me try to insert call. What is the procedure name? Insert EMP. Insert EMP. I'll try to give the value 12. I'll try to give the employee name Vamshi 12. It should not be any problem now. It should be inserted. It should be inserted. When I say F8, done. Record inserted successfully. When I refresh, yes, I got 12. Vamshi 12. Working fine. Now I'll say 12 comma Vamshi 4. I'll say Vamshi 4. So unique constraint violation exception will be raised now. So what is that? SQL exception. So control goes to what? This block. When I execute, yes, I got the message. Error code is 301. Error message what? Unique constraint violated. This is also understood. Okay. Now I'll say, now I'll say 12 is already there. So I'll give 13. But I'll try to give what? Blank. I'll try to give blank value for employee name. So let's see what happens when I say F8. Good. SQL X error code is what? 10,002. Error message is what? E-name cannot be blank. So what I'm trying to show here is your procedure logic, procedure block can contain exception handling block for both both what? Standard exceptions as well as what? User defined exception. In case of standard exception, declaration and raising is done by SAP. Our job is only to handle. In case of user-defined exception, declaration, raising, and handling has to be taken care by developer itself. Any questions? Please ask me. Any questions?
No, sir.
Hope it's clear to everyone. Exception handling mechanism. The things you have to understand is in case of standard exception, we need to what? Just handle it. In case of user defined, you have to declare, handle, and raise. How to raise? Signal keywords. While raising, you have to associate the exception message. That's all. So we understood how to use conditional statements, looping statements, and what else? We have seen the exception handling both for standard exceptions as well as what? User defined exceptions. So next class, that is on Monday, we'll have the next class on Monday. We will see functions. So far we have seen what procedures. we'll see functions, and once we complete functions, again we'll come back to procedure and we'll develop in a different way so that we can consume it from what ABAP layer. So next class, that is on Monday, we'll discuss what functions, user defined functions. So far we have seen user defined procedures. Similarly, we have user defined functions. We'll discuss that on Monday. Done. So if you don't have any questions, I'll wind off for today.
So one quick question. Just like
Yeah,
message
Kishore.
class in ABAP, can we create our own message class and then use it in some different programs?
Here we don't have that option, Kishore. At the database level, we don't have. When you consume this procedure from the ABAP level, okay, there as usual we can create that message class in that SC91 and then we can do that. But here, as per my knowledge, we don't have that provision like message class at the database level, not available.
Okay. Okay. So this 10,002 error code, is
Hmm.
it confined to only this particular program, sir? And then next program, like no,
Obviously.
we will defend. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, again in the next program I can use the same error code, no problem.
With a different text message. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Within the same procedure, if you are handling multiple user defined exceptions, this should be unique. It cannot be repeated within the same
Okay.
procedure.
Okay.
Understand?
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay.
this
Okay.
error code is always local to the procedure.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Any other doubts, others? Sure then. So practice this part. We'll continue again on Monday. Okay? Chalo.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Thanks everyone.